Welcome to Goon Squad, decentralized news where we cover this week's biggest stories in the crypto economy. Just a couple of Polygon degenerate meme coiners talking about all the important news in the crypto economy. So clearly, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research. I'm Piter, joined as always by Ozzy. Welcome in, my friend.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
How's it going? Yeah, all is well. It's humid here today, but other than that, everything is glorious. Halloween's coming. I'm excited. All set.
Yeah, you
You
got a
celebrate?
costume this year?
No, but I got a son, and he's way into Halloween. And luckily, I'm gonna have the night off and just be able to go. And we're going with one of his buddies, his best friend. So they got their costume all ready to go. He's all geared up. He's gonna be an army dude.
Nice.
So we're
Nice.
looking forward to that. Yeah, just everything's lined up. So I'm nervous. I get nervous about it just because I want to make it fun. You know what I mean? I just want him to have a good time. But everything looks good.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. You celebrate Halloween in Canada?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not doing much right now because I'm in the in-between age where I can't go trick-or-treating and I don't have
Right,
kids, so I can't go trick-or-treating with them. But we decorated
right.
my with my cousin before she went back to Switzerland. We had a good time doing that. She's the Halloween age, so had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it brings out like a creative energy, and it really is just a fun holiday in general, in my opinion. It's one of the best.
Absolutely. I say that, and we've got the Halloween event going on for Goon this week on
Oh, what's that
Halloween.
all about?
It's celebrating the launch of When Market's 1.5 Polygon's Pump Fund, and it's going to be in the Polygon Discord, and there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on, showcasing all of the major memes from When Markets that are still around. So Goon, Pat, and Tryon. So worth coming, and Jesse Eccles even going to be there. So pretty
Oh, nice.
big event, and I think there's gonna be there might even be some alpha dropped. Worth
Well,
tuning
Goon
into
is
that.
the biggest and first. It was the Genesis meme coin for Polygon, so a lot of potential there. There hasn't been a huge meme coin push on Polygon, but hopefully that day is coming.
It
Looking forward
probably
to it.
is. It probably is. That's all I can say.
And it's nice to have ambassadors like Jesse Eckel and your friend Andy, yours and my friend Andy
Yep,
on the list.
that's it. And we've been working pretty closely with Polygon, so I got to say, huge shout out to them because they've been supporting Goon quite a bit.
The other big event, not too far from Halloween, how scary they make it feel here in the United States, but we have an election coming. And it's just 7 days away. We're almost going to have a decision. It'll be nice. But in one of the swing states of Pennsylvania, the state legislature passed with a huge margin in terms of the number of legislators that voted for it a Bitcoin right bill that protects your right to self custody and further allows the use of BTC as a payment method. So exciting in that it's a swing state and it's a positive Bitcoin story. If you're a single issue voter, hopefully it encourages a little bit of a get out the vote activity.
Yeah, pretty interesting, especially considering we've also been seeing steady stuff on poly markets about the polls, with 66% supporting Trump and 34% voting for Harris as the next future president. That could also be a huge liquidity event for Polygon, with somewhere around $260 million locked in liquidity on poly markets on this bet alone. So not even considering the popular vote bet or anything else. With There's been about betting volume of about 3 billion on the market, but about 266 million is currently locked in liquidity. And that'll
Oh, okay, that's interesting because I was like, yeah, I thought the numbers were in the billions, but it's different than the number that's locked up.
Yeah, because it's like trading a token, you can trade in and out of your bet
Oh,
before
it's
it
a full
resolves.
ball is what's actually there right now.
Yep.
Okay,
So
I get it.
worth seeing. And even though traditional polls are definitely much tighter, we've talked about this a lot, it definitely seems like poly markets is going one side with the voters right now. So we'll see what happens.
When you're inside the US, it's really hard to tell what's going on because both sides, it's pretty close, and both sides make the other side like the sky is falling, like the world's going to end if they get voted in. But there are undecided voters, and they have to sift through all this. What's your take on it from an outside point of view, looking in from Canada, for example, Trump just had this huge event at Madison Square Garden in New York. If you're in the pro-Trump echo chamber, it's like amazing. If you're in the Kamala Harris echo chamber, it is like a Hitler rally. So what do you think is going to happen with this election in the U.S.?
From an outside perspective, and also coming from a policy background, I think that we probably end up seeing a Trump election with a Kamala Harris winning the popular vote. I think there's enough swing states that are likely to be swinging towards Trump for various reasons. Even in Canada, we're seeing quite a swing towards the right side. We've had our version of the Democrats for the last almost 10 years, I think. And now we're approaching, and it feels very much like the tides are turning, with a couple even provincial elections swinging towards the conservative or more tightly towards the right. I think that we're likely to see that in the U.S. as well, and especially just with FEMA and some of the discussion that was going around in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, which could play a part in the election.
The other big story, well, just like I said, just 7 days away. By the time we're recording this, it'll be election day when we're recording next week. So we won't have the answer just yet, but coming to a close. It'd be nice to close this book and move on to the next one. The other big story, Microsoft, a story out of Microsoft. So the board, Microsoft to consider Bitcoin investment. There's a vote for shareholders on whether Microsoft should invest in Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. So there was a lot of excitement, but at the same time, this is just a vote to look into it, right?
Yeah, it's not, the vote isn't as big as some people are saying.
Like, it's not to buy Bitcoin.
No, as far as what's being presented, there is no actual purchase plan involved. Some of the board's actually recommending to vote no because they already have and are considering Bitcoin as a reserve asset. So it's essentially not something new for the board. And this is interesting to see what happens. They're not really talking about a buy plan. And maybe that's why it's not getting as much airplay as when the news first came out.
Just like what you said, that it's not necessarily something new. There's this quote that's been floating around from CTO Kevin Scott, like it's like a new quote, but it's actually from 2019 about the quote goes, "I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before, but Bitcoin is an incredibly powerful concept. I don't think we fully grasped what it could mean for society." So this really grandiose quote, and it made it seem like it was coming out right now, but it is from 2019. But it is interesting. Now, a lot of times, whatever the board recommends, that's what the shareholders do vote. But I think it should be noted that the second largest shareholder of Microsoft is BlackRock. Now, they don't necessarily themselves own the stock, but they hold the stock for their investors and they get the voting rights. So I don't even think they need this recommendation. They probably have influence already, but notable. And then just a reminder that they have this kind of voting share in many companies. So if something happens with this, it could be a trend. So I thought it was like an exciting trend for Bitcoin. Like, how do we get to 10 trillion market cap trend?
Oh, absolutely. And this comes on the heels of, we had Michael Saylor's talked about being a double, single, and triple maxi, and then Metaplanet raising 10 billion Japanese yen, about $66 million US dollars, in its 11th stock sale, likely aimed at expanding its Bitcoin holdings. And Emory University disclosed in SEC filings that it owns over $15 million in Grayscale's mini Bitcoin ETF, making it the first university to invest in Bitcoin. So it's
not hard to imagine this trend continuing. More and more people coming out in SEC filings, "Oh, we own Bitcoin."
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see if there's some pension funds or even some more universities that come out with this very soon.
There was also another kind of exciting tweet that I saw that the CEO on October 25th met with Adam Back and Samson Mao about, assumedly about Bitcoin. Potentially this topic came up.
Yeah, assume it would make sense. Adam Back is one of the people that is considered a possible Satoshi Nakamoto, has been around for a long time. I don't know Samson Mao as much, but I assume the same, or assume to be a core contributor to the Bitcoin infrastructure as a whole. Pretty interesting. especially as we get into even more game theory about Bitcoin, because Van Eck was out on a podcast and
They were on
announced,
one of the mainstream channels, just like Squawk or something like that.
and they said that three of the new members of BRICS, the UAE, Argentina, and Ethiopia, are all mining Bitcoin with government resources. So we've got the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund investing in Bitcoin mining through BRICS countries with the goal of setting up global trade in Bitcoin. And then other articles, such as one from May 2024, saying that Ethiopia had opened its doors to the Bitcoin mining industry and had spent 250 million in partnership with the West Data Group based out of Hong Kong to use excess and unused
Okay,
power.
China. Yeah, in China.
Use excess unused power to invest in Bitcoin mining. We've also have the UAE, whose sovereign wealth fund in late 2021 partnered with a local Bitcoin mining company with a 650 megawatt hydro-cooled mining farm being set up in Abu Dhabi with $2 billion invested.
At the time, it was the largest Bitcoin mining site ever. Now, this was 2021, but yeah,
And then,
big time.
yeah, pretty big site with another article more recently in 2023 saying that Marathon Digital, backed by the Sovereign Wealth Fund, also created a immersion Bitcoin mining operation in the Middle East. So that's a lot already just between those two countries. But we've
Yeah, I
got
didn't realize all of them were so. I remember the UAE stories, but the Ethiopia, I guess that didn't really strike home with me. And then Argentina, like the government, I didn't realize this, but like there's a partnership with Genesis Digital Assets and one of their utilities to open a new Bitcoin mining facility that will operate stranded gas. The government getting involved, and he just met with the El Salvadorian president, didn't
Yep, Javier Milei just met with the El Salvadorian president too. So lots of these BRICS nations getting into Bitcoin mining. Maybe does it push the US to get into that game as well, just to
he?
try and
Because
keep up?
if they're selling cross border payment, this new BRICS is has more, what is it, total value locked, I guess you call it, or market cap than the G7. So
Yep.
if they start settling in Bitcoin, yeah, that's that metaphor. That Bitcoin is like gunpowder, like you
Mm.
will have to adopt it
Yeah.
or get left behind. If you try to come at me with
Across.
or like a phalanx formation, like we're just gonna mow you down. If
Yep.
you come at me with $1 10 years from now, maybe I'll want Bitcoin.
Yeah. And this comes on the heels of more FUD on ETH. There's a lot of people that have been fairly bearish on ETH, but
Why is it underperforming? It may be bottoming out, who knows? But yeah, like it has been underperforming, particularly to Bitcoin.
yeah. And so there's a bit of concern because on October 10th, Uniswap announced that it would launch its own blockchain called Unichain. It was going to be a roll up that was being built on top of Ethereum, and Unichain will share its revenue with users who lock up or stake their Uni tokens, which is the native currency of Uniswap. Uniswap's revenues from fees went mainly to Ethereum and those who own Ethereum, with Uniswap accounting for about 44% of trading volume on Ethereum. So,
Huge portion. If you ever go to the gas tracker and look at it, it's always right up there on Etherscan. It's
yeah,
the top.
oh yeah, and they generated about 1.3 billion from trading and settlement fees across 5 primary blockchains over the last 12 months. And that's not chump change.
Yeah.
Although if you look at Radium volume over the last just even recently, that it definitely trumps this Uniswap volume.
Yeah. Is this a good or bad thing for Ethereum? It seems like their fork is working. Gas fees are coming down, but they're losing revenue. So is this a win or a loss for ETH? And with the loss of revenue, it affects the whole inflation equation for ETH. Does it sound money? Is it inflationary or deflationary? If they're not getting enough burn from gas fees, then it becomes inflationary. The story is yet to be told. We're still early in this bull run, if it's even started. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out for ETH this cycle. Or is the story of the Ethereum killer going to happen? and we can jump into the Solana story.
Yeah.
And you mentioned on Radium, yeah, they generated 3.41 million in fees on Solana blockchain in 24 hours as part of the story. But the main bit is that on-chain data shows that Solana surpassed Ethereum in daily transaction fees. So they had a day greater, generating 2.54 million in a day versus Ethereum's 2.07. Meme coins and volume on dexes from these meme coins is a major catalyst and could come and go, but serious competition for ETH out there.
Yeah. And it's pretty crazy looking at volume on Ethereum versus Solana. It's Ethereum is doing about 700 to 800 million in daily transaction volume, with Solana about more than double that at about 2.5 on a daily basis. However, you've got to look at the fact that Ethereum now has transactions on Arbitrum. Base is doing about as many transactions daily in terms of volume of dollars as Ethereum. So that's pretty significant, and Arbitrum's doing quite well itself. Interesting to watch whether we start talking about how it was the scaling solution that worked, or that it's now fallen behind, or that it failed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
So do you FOMO into Sol or take the buying opportunity with ETH? That's for you all to decide.
Yeah.
So why don't you take us through macro real quick? Seems pretty straightforward right now.
Yeah, the macro is pretty straightforward right now. But before I do that, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing a video with a friend. It makes a huge difference for us. We love making these videos for you, but this support means a lot. And so thank you for everyone who does watch our videos and comments and shares, and it really makes a difference. So thank you for watching. Now I'll dive into your macro, because on top of the election, next week's a huge week because we also have a Fed meeting and a Fed rate cut just 2 days after. On Thursday, November 7th, the Fed is expected to make a decision to cut the current interest rates by another quarter basis point. This would bring us to 3/4 of basis point cut at this point this year, with at least another quarter basis point cut expected in December at about 70%. Some pretty big numbers coming in, with almost a guarantee of a quarter basis point cut this point next week. This also hits us at a very key point in the money flow cycle, where it generally takes 3/4 of a basis point cut for the market to really start taking off. So pretty bullish on that. But we do have three big data points really coming in before then. This week we've got GDP on Wednesday. So GDP will show how well the markets and the economy is doing. It also will just show how GDP growth is doing compared to inflation. If it's outpacing inflation, then the economy is quote unquote strong and could allow for more rate cuts. The other thing, looking at on Thursday, we get PCE data, so inflation data. Ideally, you want to see that come down if you want to see another cut this year. And then unemployment data, you want that to be ticking up because they want to be moving towards maximum employment. That's on Friday, so we'll be seeing how all of that shakes out early next week.
And then one more meeting before the end of the year, so in Q4 in December, and the market's still expecting a cut there, 65% or so, but maybe a couple more cuts coming. We'll get past this point you were talking about and get one more before the end of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, would be pretty bullish for crypto as a whole to be seeing that money flow really starting to come with these interest rate cuts. That being said, we'll see what's to come next week, and we'll dive into our speed run.
All right, the speed run. I'll kick it off. Coinbase introduced Base Agent for creating AI agents in 3 minutes. Did you read anything about this?
I hadn't heard about this until about 15 minutes before the show. So I've heard a lot about AI agents, which is like a massive use case for the blockchain, but I hadn't heard about Coinbase's based agents. So that's a big dark hole that I'm going to be digging through after the show. That being said, we also have Cosmos. They've got a big hard fork. Cosmos has been underperforming probably even worse than ETH this cycle. And they've got a hard fork called Atom 1, which just went live. This was one of the founders creating a hard fork because they didn't agree with a rewards reduction proposal. And so Atom holders will receive Atone, which is the hard fork of Atom.
So he wants to break off from it, and then you have to atone for it.
Atone for your sins. So
nice. All right, well, one of the altcoins that's really been around a long time. One of the first ones that survived. Chainlink, their big conference is kicking off on October 30th. So expect some announcements. Last week they had an announcement with integration of major financial institutions, including SWIFT, announced an initiative to make corporate action data more accessible using AI and blockchain tech. So AI again, reduce fragmentation, standardized real-time data across markets. So Chainlink constantly working. We'll see how it plays out for them this cycle. They've been struggling just like everybody else lately, it seems like. Not one of the tokens that have excelled and outperformed Bitcoin.
No, but one thing that is hoping to outperform Bitcoin is Stacks. Their Nakamoto upgrade has been rescheduled to go live on October 29th. It's aiming to significantly increase the transaction speeds on Stack, which is an LTU of Bitcoin that was built for Bitcoin. So worth watching. And this comes on the heels of a lot more.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, you go for it.
There's a couple of other L2s coming to Bitcoin, and including Cardano, who they've just announced an integration with Bitcoin that allows for actions on Cardano to be registered on the Bitcoin network and paid in ADA. Looks like there's a game going with Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, watch out. Never discount the king. Also this week on October 28th, the Arena, the most popular SocialFi app on the Avalanche, although I haven't heard that much out of it.
I've heard a lot about it from my Avalanche friends, like my friends.
But they're launching a token this week. Keep an eye out for that. There's always a little excitement in the air whenever a token gets launched.
One token launch that was very disappointing last week was Scroll, whose airdrop just absolutely was dust for most people, no matter what you did, because of their stupid amount that they gave to people that had massive whales that had way too much money. One person made over $1 million, so gives you an idea. Significant amounts of money were made by individuals who
very few people.
Yeah, who had very few people who already had a lot of money.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about just this whole market is new rich people.
Yeah, and that almost concludes our speed run with Van Eck adding staking rewards to their Solana exchange traded note, their ETN, in Europe. So now there's a little bit of a dividend on their Solana ETF or ETN Europe. So pretty interesting. I didn't know that there was an ETN in Europe for Solana yet. So
speaking of ETFs, this is totally, I just want to throw this at you. It was this concept I read about on crypto Twitter, but it was this idea that all this locked up Bitcoin that's going into these other protocols that are locking up Bitcoin, say the ETF, this story about adding staking just brought it up. But so all this Bitcoin goes into this ETF, right? And gets locked up, or Coinbase's wrapped BTC, or all these wrapped BTC, right? If over time, all this Bitcoin gets wrapped up, and eventually the idea is Bitcoin has a limited supply, and eventually it's the transaction fees that are going to support the network. If all of it's locked up and all the transactions are happening on different layers or other blockchains, how does Bitcoin survive? I thought it was an interesting concept. It was like a long-term threat. What do you think of that? I know I'm just throwing this.
No, there's definitely a long-term threat with that. That the Bitcoin network could lose miners because of the fact that there's not enough transactions and transaction volume. It'll be interesting to see, because one could argue that the ETFs you'll have buyers and sellers and people moving to one ETF or the other, and so you'll have fees from that. And then if you've got countries potentially dealing in cross-border payments in Bitcoin, that
right,
could
like a final settlement, larger final settlement.
Yeah, so you could see that supporting the network, but I there's definitely the liquid coin issue is going to be like a discussion for a long time, I think, just like the block space was.
I just had to throw that in there. It was just the interesting tweet of the week that I was reading. I never thought of it like that. But anyway, do your own research, not financial advice. We hope you all enjoyed the show. Please subscribe. Goon Squad out.
Yeah. Peace out. See you guys at Meme Coin Mania on November 1st. We're doing a mania with AVAX, including their biggest meme coin, Kak Inu, and a whole bunch of others. And then see you at the Halloween event in the Polygon Discord. So join in and don't miss out on the fun. Cheers, guys.